Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Forging podcast. This is our third podcast. This is where trials refine us and stories ignite strength. And I'm here with none other than Mr. Alan Knight. Alan Knight, 801 caps for Pompey, the highest capped player in English football. Is it the world or is it English?
I'm not sure about the world, but yeah, it's still...
It's incredible. It's incredible. Played for Pompey over 4 decades, been through promotions, relegations, is known as the legend. I know Alan always gets awkward when he's referred to as the legend, but definitely a well-earned title. Loyalty is something we're going to talk about a bit later on. But firstly, Alan, welcome. Thank you for coming around.
No, thank you. Right, it's nice of you to invite me.
So when I was looking at potential guests, I had Alan as a guest I was going to approach months and months, maybe years down the line, because I was thinking, wow, it's going to take a while to build up. And I cheekily asked him early for the third cast, and thankfully he said yes, which is quite remarkable. And as you know, this is about mental health, about resilience, about stoicism. It's about recovery. It's about really understanding the trials and tribulations of life. And by Jove, if you know anything about and you know that Alan's had the highest highs and the lowest lows. So we want to get that out. Alan, hopefully I'll stop talking in a minute. So a Ballon boy, grew up in London up to you're 14. I know that anybody who's a Pompey fan, it's honestly, it's like Alan's part of the family, right? Because you've watched him between the sticks all through that. Well, for me, it was all through the 90s. And then to have him sat here is pretty mental. But grew up in London, Londoner, West Ham supporter. It was Crawford, wasn't it? Was it Crayford?
Crawford.
It was Crawford. And he got you down here. And then I know there was a potential to go back to West Ham or Fulham even, and QPR, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, as a 13-year-old in London, I used to train in the weeknights, alternately with QPR and Fulham. There was a scout at Fulham's training ground when we were training who spoke to my parents, said, would Alan fancy a trial down at Portsmouth? And if I'm pretty honest, I must admit, I was a little bit, where's Portsmouth?
Geography, not your strongest point at school.
That my parents explained, because we used to go to West Whitwin in a caravan for like some holiday. So I said, yes, just down the road from where we go on holiday, blah, blah, blah. So I come down over Easter and yeah, I was terribly homesick. I was just down the road from there, staying in digs in St. Ronan's Road in Southsea. Very homesick. Didn't really know what it was all about down here, but I was offered, as I said, boy forms at 14 back then. And I got to be honest, I said, well, I'll go back and speak to Fulham and QPR. And obviously, again, being honest, I was hoping that they would turn around and say, oh, don't do that, Al, sign for it.
Come over here, stay close to home.
But they said, no, wish me all the best, though, because it all worked out. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a, okay. And then, obviously, I spent the next 2 years, obviously with the fantastic support of my mum and dad. I mean, my dad paid out of his own pocket the majority of the time to drive me from London down at weekends and school holidays to come and stay, and then playing in the South East counties. Used to pay a 10p for a little programme or team sheet, and they used to try and pay him with the petrol money out of that. Got a bit embarrassed taking 10p's. But no, I mean, for me, that time was something special. I mean, for those 2 years, come with the lads I was going to be apprentices with, Pete Tyndall, Neil Hyder, Wilkie, and a few others, Ronnie Hall and Jamesy at the time, who come a little bit later. But they were lads that I sort of grew up with footballing-wise. As we spoke about, everyone's heard the story about West Ham getting involved. And Ron Greenwood coming down and offering money and blah, blah, blah. But that's where my affinity with the club really grew, was with those lads early on playing for Pompey, because I used to get some terrible stick back in London because I played for inner London schools, and all those boys were all signed for Arsenal, Chelsea and West Ham and all the big London clubs, and they used to go, Pompey were on the telly at the time we were in administration as per usual, and pictures of the lads washing up on the North Terrace. And they just used to take the mickey out of me, oh, you're going to go skint, you won't survive, blah, blah, blah.
But that's sorry to jump in. That's a fascinating story in terms of like you said, it's almost like their roots stayed close to home, but you're one of the few that ventured elsewhere. And Portsmouth, as we know, through the decades, seemed to always have some sort of financial trouble. And at the time when West Ham wanted you, and I understand it was a bit, say, dodgy. Some money was offered, which would have been a really welcome bit of money for the club as well. It's funny how you still stayed. That's
Yeah, well, I still speak with Ray now, see him, bless him, Ray Crawford. Greenwood come down. When I did go and have talks with Greenwood and John Lyle at the time, with my dad, because my dad was a massive West Ham supporter and my granddad, and that's how I become a West Ham supporter as a kid. And I did go to Upton Park and meet them both, and they spoke about going, but they wanted me to do things, well, obviously you don't do them now, but you used to have to clean the terraces, clean the boots, clean the toilets in the south stand and all those sort of horrible things as an apprentice. And they said, well, refuse to do that. You've got to refuse to do that. And that's really Pompey's nerves, and they won't want you. And I went, well, I ain't doing that. And I said, that's
unbelievable.
If you want me and Pompey don't want me, then do it the right way. If they're prepared to let me go on a proper transfer, as I saw it back then fair enough. Greenwood did come down, supposedly offered, I think it was 20 grand at the time for me, and Clive Green, who was just breaking them to the side at the time, who's come to the end of his apprenticeship, I think, or whatever you'd have to ask Clive, and a player in exchange or something or other. Crofts had moved up from youth team manager into Jimmy's assistant, and fair play. I mean, Jimmy didn't really know who I was. So I think Jimmy went, 20 grand, happy days. And then Crofts got wind of it, and he lived in Milton at the time, and he come down and said to Greenwood, no, he's not going anywhere, he's staying at Pompey. That was the end of that story, really. I know it fine.
And the rest is history. And we will talk about that. It's not just history. But that's incredible. That must be very liberating and strengthening for you as a person when another human being way beyond your years sees that promise in you, sees something in you that lots of people may not have seen. And yes, West Ham saw a talented goalkeeper who accidentally ended up in goal because he was 6'1" at school. So like, right, you'll go to goal, had ball kicked at your face many times, all that. Yeah. And then you started to enjoy it and suddenly found you had a great skill. And I love the story of you on your Todd going down to the railway embankment, hoofing the ball at the embankment so you could test your reflexes and catch it and get that hand-eye coordination. That's awesome. I love that. And I use that with my boys as an analogy in terms of when they're playing rugby. It's practice. Just do it on your own time. No one needs to see what you're doing. Yeah. Just go and do it. But how did that make you feel then, knowing that you had the support of this well-respected guy called Fritz? Is that something that really enamored you and built that loyalty and strength with Pompey? Was that the bonding moment? Was that really then fused Alan Knight and Pompey together?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think my real bonding thing come with the lads that I was a schoolboy with at the club and played in the South East counties. It's funny we should be on here now. Last week I met up with Ray Crawford at Mark Moody's 70th birthday, and I was sat there talking to Crofts, and we spoke about, because Crofts is obviously a legend Ipswich and what he went on to achieve there. And he'd been there recently, seen Alan Brazil and all these guys that obviously are Ipswich legends back in the day. And it reminded us of the time we went to Ipswich in the South East counties, our South East counties team. Ipswich were a fantastic side. They were always winning that league, the FA Youth Cup, Alan Brazil playing, Terry Butchers and all these guys playing quite. And we went there and we had a real good go. It was actually Brazil who scored late on. We really, that one of the games that always sticks out for me was that game up at Portman Road. Played them. It was a Southern Junior floodlit game. Just talking to him about what a good side we had. No one liked us because we were Pompey and all that. And it was a great league we were in. We were playing all the big London clubs on a Saturday morning. And a really good time. And if you're talking about what really tied me to the club was that bond with those young lads
Right.
as as a schoolboy and apprentice coming through.
Yeah.
Just unfortunately, a lot of those lads didn't really get the chance. Especially Neil Hyder. I'll mention Neil. His local lad still comes, and most of them do actually still come season ticket holders. But Neil was a fantastic centre. I went on, had a fantastic non-league career. Played for Bognor. He was our youth team captain, and unfortunately, because of our financial situation, he wasn't taken on as pro. But that's the thin line between success. I'm not going to say failure because that's a horrible word, but the thin line going on or just staying or going and playing in the non-league. I know Neil loved his football and still does.
So that's an interesting thought, actually, because you see that in the corporate world. You see that in many industries and sports. So, for example, if I think about rugby, there were lads that I grew up with that made it to the top level, and I knew lads that were potentially better than them as lads that didn't really make it past National League or even Hampshire level rugby. Obviously, there's an element of luck. There's an element of coaches having that belief in you because you had the backing of Crawford, right?
Yep.
And that would have helped your career because he saw something in you. He's like, nah, this guy's got something. He's got a big future, whether it's for Portsmouth, or hopefully for Portsmouth, but he's got it. And this lad, sorry, forgive me, the chap who went to Bognor,
Neil Hyder.
For whatever reason, whether it was a personal, you saw it in him. If you were the big older coach and you saw him, he would have had probably a very different career, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and that's the thin line. So unfortunately, you see it quite a lot in professional football. Players, for whatever reason, as you say, it could be something like a club that can't afford to take on another professional, which really happened to Neil. And then just little things, quirks of fate, really, that stop very, very good players going.
Quirks of fate. Yeah, I really like that. I think that's really apt in every sense because exactly that. When you see that people really achieving and moving on to those highest heights, there's normally something behind. Yes, they've got an incredible talent. They're probably absolutely persevering. They're gritty. They push on, but you always need that support. You need that little push behind you.
Yeah, that's what you said to me. You need the coach or the manager to one of the better words, saying to you, Phil, that you've got what you need. Yeah, it's opinions. It's football. That's in most things.
Exactly. Subjectivity, and it's the same in the corporate world. When you're showing great promise, there could be someone above you who sees you as a threat and will do everything they can to stop you.
Exactly.
At next level,
Yeah.
So if we just rewind you just a touch, I want to talk to you about that time when you were 14. When you first started coming down to the South Coast and started building that bond with the players, you were very homesick. You said, you came from a solid upbringing. Both your mother and father worked. Your dad was fairly manual turned to, he was then a foreman and then later on a director of his firm. And your mum always worked too, but they brought you up in a real secure, loving environment, right? With support.
Yeah, my parents were fantastic. I was a little bit, I used to, because I'd see it, and I still see it now, unfortunately, parents getting very involved with their young players and being a bit too over the top.
And we call what helicopter parents.
Trying to be politically correct and in the face of the
Say how it is, Owen. Say how it is.
It is, and I would be very anti, and they weren't like that. They weren't like that at all. But even if my old man was just having a chat with one of the scouts or whatever at QPR, and I'd be like, Dad, don't be pushing. I don't need that. I don't want that. And a little bit here, and I was a little bit harsh on me. But when I look back now, I mean, I have a lot of regret about how, especially with my mum, on how I treated her towards the end. But I was very offish towards her in certain things. But no, I mean, they were fantastic. They weren't in the coaches. They didn't put Ray or anyone under pressure. They were supportive in the right ways, if that's the right way of saying that. They helped me massively. Without them, I wouldn't have got to where I was. But my mum was, I mean, again, talking about that game at Portman Road, and Neil actually texted me, who we spoke about, he said, do you remember your mum walking around the ground? Because she was too scared to watch the go. And then there was the case when I got the face smashed in at Wimbledon, and she fronted up.
Fashioning.
Yeah, so fronted him up in the bar. I was in hospital. She'd gone up to, what have you done to my son? John fashioned him.
Was Vinnie Jones in that team as well? 'Cause
Yeah,
that was the
Vinnie Jones. Not sure if he played in that exact game, but we used to have some horrible goals, especially when
yeah.
I used to have a few nightmares up at Quayle Lane. And I mean, I'm sure it'll be brought up about the no bloke back pass because it normally is with everyone.
I wasn't going to go. Sorry, I'm just laughing because I, when I was reading the book, and there are always teams that you kind of think, oh, I don't really want to go there. From a rugby perspective, growing up, the teams were normally West Country, Cinderford, or Lydney, or Dings Crusaders, and you'd always think, oh, I don't really want to play there because you knew you're going to get beaten up. Whatever happens, you're going to get beaten up, and you'd always try and put your most aggressive face on and really be as tough as you can. And before you know it, you're the bottom of a rock, and they're like, right here, you little whatever, get stuck in. So playing Wimbledon, was that the same? Were you thinking? Because I know you would admit it yourself. You weren't always the best under a high ball, right? And
No, well, the one where I got my face smashed in. Bowling, when we used to, Alan Ball used to go, this is good against evil in footballing terms.
wow,
We're the good.
that's powerful.
They're the evil. They're long ball. We're gonna match them. We're gonna go for it. So wound me up in, you've got to come. You've got to dominate the area. This, that, and the other. Yeah, okay, Gaffy. Yeah. And so they get a free kick just in the centre circle. Big Bez comes up to boot it in. We know what they're going to do. He boots it towards the penalty spot, between the penalty spot and the penalty area. Big Dopey out decides, all round that, I'm going to come and get it. I've come. And then you have Eric Young and John Fash who split, come across you, but they run across. It's not like one of them, but they're running across with their elbow, with their elbow high. So in theory, I suppose I run into it. I get the smack and it ends up, it was actually Eric Young's elbow. Although Mum obviously gave John Fashion a bit of crew. And then obviously it's broke my cheekbone, eye socket, nose is across there. I'm on the floor. They carried on and I think scrambled out for a referee, didn't even blow it out. So,
That was incredible.
yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, they were always horrible games and, didn't have to. And the thing was, it was in fit. Well, it was the local club to where I lived in London. So I remember them being in, I can't remember, some Isbian League sometime when I was a kid, and they'd stick a guy in goal and stuff like that. I mean, fair play to him. I mean, I wouldn't have paid to watch him. But
Well, you mentioned Ipswich. I remember watching Ipswich in the 90s and when they'd come to Fratton Park, and it was similar. It was that long ball that all of their players seemed to be 6 foot plus, and it would just be launching into the box. It's horrible to watch, but it was highly effective. So as a footballer, like I was never good enough to play any sort of football. I was in goal, in fact, for my school, but I was terrible. But in the rugby change rooms for a game, the intensity is palpable. Like you've normally got the forwards all headbutting walls and really smacking each other's chests and shoulders ready to go. Then you've got the backs kind of just chilling, like, all right, chaps, calm down. I need to keep it. Is it the same in a football change rooms? Do you see the centre backs and the centre halves and the goalkeeper all getting angry?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say too much about what happens these days, but back in my day, it used to be different. I mean, now they go out and they do a full warm-up about an hour before. We used to just, as a goalie, I'd go out with the physio, normally Neil Sillett, and he'd kick a few balls at me, knock a couple of crosses, and that'd be it. But now I see them doing a full workout with keep ball and closing down session on the pitch and blah, blah, blah. But back in our day, everyone was, whatever they were doing, some were just sat there
Having a fag
and doing their bets, and some of them were in the gaffer's room doing the bets at the same time as ballers. Even more so when Stephen Farage was running, but the guys
Quite
moved on a little bit. No.
We'll talk about people like that. I remember, I don't know if in my head I remember it. I remember seeing players like Johnny Durnin and Prozinecki having a fag before almost like have I imagined that, or have I convinced myself of seeing that? Because I seem to remember seeing that, like near the players' entrance, having a fag.
Prozinecki, I mean, what player, what a guy. I mean, even at the end of his career, he was something special.
Yeah.
And like I smoked during my career, all the way through, I smoked. But Robert used to smoke Marlboro Red. He'd always want to nick either me or Big Cats, but we smoked Marlboro Light, and he used to get them raving up
Because it
So-
wasn't strong enough.
Marlborough, normal, shit, this is shit. Well, they're expensive, you know, Robbie. You know, they don't want it. He'd be throwing more, but he'd be off having. He wouldn't give us any of his. Well, he's a great guy. He was a good guy, and wow, what a talent! What
Incredible.
we all used to say, "Christ, what it must have been like when he was when he was in his
Barcelona, Real
prime."
Madrid, yeah. Sorry, Milan Mandric, God rest your soul. And we just had that news in the last couple of weeks, and what an incredible guy he was for Portsmouth Football Club, and I'm glad to have kind of been at Fratton Park during his tenure as reign, and he did a great job up the road too. But was it Leicester? Didn't go to Leicester after? But he looked after another. Yeah, but what a great man! Was he a great man to work with?
No, as I say, I didn't have a close relationship, and I don't mean that in the other, in a bad way. I had a few, not issue, a couple of days with him. I mean, he was a really lovely guy.
Yeah,
he was a great guy. He had class about him. And come in, and he probably got seen off a little bit early doors over certain things. But once he got himself used to what the English football was all about, and he got the right people around him, and obviously getting Harry in. And as I've said, I mean, that time, I mean, by then I was a goalie coach, and Harry brought in the likes of Shaka Islop that I worked with. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Shaka. And I don't mean disrespectfully to the players I played with, because I played in some great teams. But for me, that was the best team, I think.
I agree.
I remember seeing.
Sorry about that noise. We've got a dog next door. They must have you about Fluffy, Mr. Fluffy. He's called. So he's joined us. If he stopped doing it, that was kind of that was, and it was 2000. I know Merce came in for that promotion season, and in fact, I think that was 2002, 2003, where we had Stoney, Merce, and Berkovic was there as well, wasn't he?
He come in. I don't know if he was my was.
But Toddy, yeah, they were a great time, and you've been on those real highs and lows, and let's come back to you. Where you really started in earnest, reaching first teams towards the first team towards the late 70s, and I think you got your cap on the season we got relegated to the fourth tier. And then, how long after that was it when you started? There was one season we had a really great season. We got promoted. You had 19 clean sheets. How far into your career was that? You obviously were on a great path to understanding who you were and what you stood for and your value within the team. But how did that build from that youth contract to that point? And when did you start feeling that true affinity to Pompey, and what was behind that? I know you said it was the lads that you're with, but loads of them left, when you signed professional contracts.
Yeah. Well, as you said, just before my 17th birthday, last game of the season up at Rotherham, I was put in the team. Obviously, Jimmy was manager at the time, but by then, a guy that really shaped obviously, Cruyff, there's different managers through my journey. Cruyff's obviously at the beginning, and then as a pro, or just before I signed pro as a 17-year-old, I had Frank Burrows joined the club. He joined to assist Jimmy. It was really Frank, if I'm being honest, that pushed for me to make my debut in that game. So Frank come in, did that. Then the next season I didn't play. He brought in Pete Miller. I had a bit of the ump about it. He kept putting in transfer requests.
I forgot.
Getting myself at it a little bit. But so I didn't. Then we were obviously in the fourth division. Then we got a promotion. Was it the following season? Season again. But I think I played one game, come in injured. It might have been 2 seasons that we come up. And I dipped in. Well, I didn't even dip in there. I had a couple of games when Peter was injured. But Frank had said, "Look, just experience, learn off him, and listen to what he's got to say." And I basically said, "Well, when will I know if it's good or bad, whatever he's saying?" Yeah, I obviously didn't have goalie coaches, so goalies used to kick balls at each other before training, and then he'd turn up and he'd do all what the outfield were playing, players were doing, and then they'd finish off with a bit of crossing and finishing, and they'd do shooting from about 2 yards at you. Peter would get you up and he'd go, and I'd be stuck there with everyone shooting at me from about 2 yards. So, yeah, that was Peter was over last year, but when I was given the honour of Freedom City, Peter was actually at the football club, and I missed him. Last time I'd seen Peter was out in America, which we might come to a bit later. So I was gutted that I'd missed him, but by all accounts, he will be over next year and hopefully get to meet up with Pete. But I don't mean this disrespectfully or anything with Peter. Peter was great to work under, and I mean, it must have been difficult for him when I started to obviously take over.
Yeah.
But Pete gave me one of the best bits of advice ever, and it really wasn't a goalkeeping bit of advice. He said words to the effect of, always respect the supporters, no matter what. They pay your wages, always be respectful, and if there's a function to do or whatever, always do it. Go out of your way to give them back that respect that they deserve. And I've tried to do that in my playing career and even afterwards now, if I can do anything.
I completely agree. Like I don't think anyone could ever argue against that. I think you really took heed to that advice. Absolutely. You're ever present, like I said at the start. As a Pompey fan, as a true Pompey fan, you're like part of the fan base. You're part of the fabric of Pompey, broader than football, because the heartbeat of this city is the football. For me, it is the football club. Like, you've got this real mix of demographic here. You've got the underclass, working class, huge working class population of hardworking people, and then you've got the real posh elements down on the seafront. But ultimately, it's that huge mix of great support, and I love being at Fratton Park. I absolutely love it. Yes, you hear incredibly colourful language, but some of the chants are so creative. It's incredible. When you're listening to it, you have to chuckle to yourself. But you've been a huge part of that for the last 4 years. I think, obviously since the that bit that you mentioned, I think absolutely that's something you really did honour, because you are ever present, you are seeing everything, you are very much associated with the Pompey badge even now. Even seeing you round the stand in your suit, I normally sit quite close to hospitality and always see it. You'll nod to all us, and I think that's great. At what point then, Alan, did you feel that? Have you ever changed your allegiance from West Ham to Pompey, or are you still very much a West Ham fan? Or if someone said, who just bought Pompey or West Ham?
No, not so much. Yeah, no, I don't know. If West Ham, I have a bit of banter with a few Man United mates and what have you, or Liverpool friends about West Ham. No, I mean, obviously, no. I ain't just saying it is Pompey. Pompey's been my life and will always be my life.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. I mean, anything that really relates to Pompey or in some shape or form, relates to her well then.
Yeah. As a player and a coach, you always see him around the club. And was saying earlier, my father or my wife worked around Fratton Park, and you are always ever present, always smiling, everyone knew you around. And I think that's a brilliant legacy and kind of lasting impression that you leave in the club. But there are so many players that come in and out of the doors of clubs all the time. People come and go because of better money or better opportunity, or they find themselves out of favour. So on that point, your loyalty that you've shown is incredibly rare, because you obviously really showed your capability as you were climbing up back through the leagues. Like I said, those 19 clean sheets in that season would have alerted pretty much every scout who was looking for a goalkeeper, whether it was in the top league looking for an understudy to their main keeper, or even, first team keepers. Or they could have been thinking, well, this guy is our number one keeper. And I know Arsenal were interested in you at one point. So what was it that really kept you here? Because I'm sure there would have been offers, and I'm sure that the manager may have said, look, Al, that these people have come in, but up the top to Foxtrot Oscar because we need you to stay here. How was that? And what were the difficult decisions you made to stay? Or was it an easy decision? What were the challenges?
It was I think it was an easy decision, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, we go back to about the West Ham thing. There was also a thing around Aston Villa. I don't really mention it too much because not a lot really happened apart apart from me going up there, and when Tony Barton was chief scout at the club, I was coming through the youth team. Tony went up and did a similar role up at Aston Villa. And then obviously when it was coming round for the pro contract, Tony invited me up alongside Reg Locke, the scout, who was supposed to look a bit like an agent back at what would be an agent in these days. So I went up, saw him, spoke about it, but nothing really come of that. We did have a chat, and it was a similar sort of thing to what West Ham were on about. Just refused a contract, but because contracts were different back then, blah, blah, blah. But
that's interesting. Just quickly on that. So you were a young lad and you're still finding your feet. You're starting to understand your value because obviously people are showing this interest in you and they're much more experienced. They know the game inside out and they're saying to you, right out, this is what you need to do. Just piss everyone off at the club, that company. You to go anyway. Is that kind of...
Yeah, there was those sort of things going on. But I will actually answer your question in a minute. But as I looked at West Ham at the time, Mervyn Day. I mean, night and day wouldn't have gone through. But not long after that, Mervyn moved on. I know, but Mervyn was at the beginning of his career. I know he moved on to Leeds. But West Ham brought in Phil Parkes for a world record amount. So I probably would never have played a game. I could have ended up disappearing off the face of the earth. I mean, no one knows for sure, but you look at that. And then with Villa, obviously Tony ended up being manager of the European Cup, went inside of Villa. Yeah. Jimmy Rimmer come off and Nigel Spink went on. That could have been Nigel Spink. But it's always spice and movies. I mean, again, if I'd gone there, Nigel was coming through and Nigel would have probably played and I would never have played a game. So to go back to the original question, and this sounds being aloof and big time, and it's not meant like that. But when I used to stay with Ian Chase, who had an hairdresser's in Fratton Road, still does in Gospel. Ian, I used to stay in digs there. Ian used to ferry me across to his shop, blah, blah, blah. And Ian always said it's always best to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond.
I see.
Yeah, and that sort of resonated a little bit. And yeah, I could see Pete coming to... Again, I shot myself in the foot a little bit. I managed to break into the team. I think this story's known.
Let it out, Alan. Let it out.
I broke into the team and Peter was out of it. I was having a run in the side. I actually, as we'd probably come to, I'd actually gone out. I hadn't had a single drink, but it was New Year's Eve. It was courting my to-be wife, first wife, Jennifer. And yeah, it was New Year's Eve. I was in the side. We were going to play Aldershot in the Cup the next day. I'd been to Jennifer's house, had tea and all that. Said, yeah, I better go home. I was in digs in St. Ronan's Road. Went back there, no one there. Everyone's out. It's New Year's Eve.
Of course.
So I've gone back in. It's about 10:30. Sat there for a little while. All this, and I knew where everyone was. I knew they were in someplace else, club in Palmy Road. So I thought, well, I'll go in and see the new year.
Yeah.
It won't hurt, you know. So I get there and I walk in about 10 to 12. Just before, I just pop in, see the lads, you know, a bit of team spirit, you know, all that old game. So I walk in, and it is full of the lads, not the ones that are not playing, the reserves. And they've all gone, what? And I'm going to swear, sorry, what the fuck are you doing in here? I went, you get your ass out, get back. So I weren't even there 5 minutes. So I was out the door, gone back. And then a couple of lads come back, what are you doing? Why are we in there? The place is a village, it's not a city, it's a village. Everyone will see you. So we play Aldershot. I get done 3 near post corners.
Everyone thought it's because you had a heavy night the night before.
I'm like, oh, shit, you know. So going after the game, we all sat there. Frank is going absolutely ballistic, going potty. There's a knock on the door, and there's a piece of paper handed to Frank. And he's looked at it. He's gone, right, 90, in my office, get changed in my office. And then he turned, he's gone to Joe Laidlaw. And as for you, what were you doing last night 'Cause I think Joe had a flat above the Wellington, what used to be the Wellington pub. He'd had a party, so he'd been out having a party, so he was getting a racking off of Frank for that. And then Frank's pulled me in. He's gone, "What's this? You were carried out of a nightclub." Give Frank his due. He pulled me in on my own and took me in the office. He went, and I explained. He said, "Well, you're going to have to learn a really harsh lesson." He said, "Because obviously Pete knows this, and I'm going to have to play Pete. You're going to be out the side." And I didn't play them for quite a while.
Wow. So this is just for turning up. And sorry, we just my dog's
That's
just gone
okay.
out.
Yeah, I mean, I could have had a lot worse. I could have had a lot worse punishment. That was bad enough, and that was a.
But you didn't drink. You didn't drink.
Sorry,
You didn't drink that night.
no, I didn't. No.
So what was the manager just?
I know there's all these stories that people reckon they've seen me pissed on the night before games. I may have played like I was, but
No,
that
never.
never was the case. No.
So let's
on
that. What I was going to come to is we grew up at a time before the internet, before those distractions. So ultimately, when you're bored, you had free time. If you weren't playing sport, you were out with your mates, or you're courting your women, or you're spending time with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
But you're ultimately, the only thing that would stop you socialising, the TV. We'd have the 4 channels on television. Well, it was 3 back in the 80s. But what I found growing up in sport, and obviously I never played the level you played, and well, when you went down to level 4, that's the level I played. But I grew up into a culture, a sport culture, which was kind of semi-pro, and drinking was a huge part of it. And we had a coach that came in from Connaught and London, Irish chap called Owen Cobb, and he started to try and change the culture a little bit because he wanted to have more professionality. But ultimately, whilst we'd maybe have a couple of pints on a Friday night before the game, on a Saturday afterwards, it was get paralytic, absolutely paralytic. And I was reflecting on this, with my wife before, saying it was kind of just accepted. We'd play rugby, put your body on the line, and straight after drinking games, etc., etc. And then I come rolling in at 3 a.m, unable to speak, potentially soiled myself. But that was kind of a weekly thing, because even on the away bus on the way back, you'd be on it straight on the away bus on the way back. What was that? So that's rugby. Rugby's known for it. Was it the same in football? What can you disclose there that's not going to be too risky? Like, what can you tell us about that culture?
Well, as a kid, as a young lad in London coming through, I was squeaky clean. And everyone expected me to be honest, because they knew I know I said I've got some stick about Portsmouth, but they all knew I had this chance of becoming a footballer. So, but all my mates were having parties, even there at 15, when one's parents were away, then they'd be around there, we'd have these party 7 things. So I used to go to the party, I'd have a drink, but I wouldn't drink this again, didn't smoke, didn't do anything like that. So I'm going to be a professional footballer. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to do all that old game, which everyone else was doing. Little bits of drugs or whatever. No, I'm not touching none of that. And then I come to Portsmouth Football Club at a 16-year-old.
And then I come to Portsmouth Football Club.
My thoughts and how a professional footballer were, I was a little bit surprised.
Come on, get it out. Come on.
What a great time. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I had 20-odd years of party. Paid the price later on and during, to be honest, but I've come, as I said, 16-year-old in digs. There was a few of us apprentices there, and there was a couple of pros that would stay there when they first signed for the club, and they'd go off be doing. We were a bit too young for them at that time of day. But we used to go to the Leopold pub, go into Leopold, and it'd start off with an orange and water, pint of orange and water.
Just down there. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have an orange and water and play bar billiards or darts. That's to kill some time. We used to go into Craneswater at lunchtime, play snooker, because we had lots of free time, as you said earlier. Then that progressed into a lager shandy, to a lager top, and then as time went on. But the thing was, back then we used to get paid on a Thursday, cash. And the one thing I did get about siding was, as apprentice, first year, the top you could get was, I think, 16 quid a week. And I was on 2 quid more than the other lads.
Okay.
And then second year, 18 quid. No, yeah.
Do you remember the price of a pint then when you were being paid 16, 18 quid?
Well, it was nothing. But we used to say, we used to get paid on a Thursday, get paid in cash, take massive amounts. And me, Jamesy and Gilly, I think it was, on a Thursday night, we used to go in to Joanna's.
The famous tree in the middle.
The tree in the middle,
Yeah.
stick to the floor, there'd be women fighting, and it was a real big eye-opener. And we also went to the old, in the Tricorn. And we went there, I remember this, because we went out into the club on the top of the Tricorn, 16. And used to come down an escalator right into where the car park was.
Yeah.
And then people started to appear. I've never run so fast in all my life. And me, Jamesy, I think it was Gilly, we've sprinted out of there. I never went back there. I think it was a roller disco at one stage.
Wow.
But, yeah.
What an iconic building that was. But.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, all the things there. And then, as I said, we used to go into Joanna's. Then I moved out from those digs into the Normanhurst Hotel, Victoria Road South. It was opposite the police station.
Which is not Fuzz and Folk, and it's now O'Neill's pub.
It's opposite, it's a pub. It used to be a police station. We were across the Normanhurst guest house. So I went in there with a couple of other lads, and then all the lads that used to sign on, all the pros would come in, would stay there. And then I was sort of in and out of the team. So I was one of the lads. I was part of it. And if you didn't drink, as you say, the drink culture, if you weren't part of that, then, and the unfortunate thing was I'd become quite good at it.
Oh, you were disciplined. You were disciplined with it, though, as in you wouldn't be smashing it the night before, and so you were respectful from that, and you understood physiologically you needed to be on your game. But then it was kind of the brakes are off after the game.
As you said, I mean, you knew you couldn't drink 48 hours before the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or be in a pub or whatever. So you had rules around it. I mean, this goes back through when I've gone through my step stuff and my alcoholism. I was a functioning alcoholic basically for all those years. And I had my rules that I thought made it all okay. God, it was a fantastic lifestyle, and it was a huge drink culture. I mean, looking back on it, there was some really shitty things that went on and in and around that.
That wasn't unique to Pompey, wasn't it? That was kind of a sport thing as well, because physically you're absolutely in your prime. Whether you're in a relationship or not, women find you attractive, and as a bloke, that's something you quite enjoy, getting that sort of attention as well. And it all goes hand in hand, and you're kind of you feel liberated when you're out with your mates and you're just drinking, laughing. I agree. I've got some incredibly fond memories of that, but it was a cultural thing. Certainly around rugby as well. But absolutely, you know, whatever club you played for was the same.
You weren't part of the team, and you were seen like you'd be an outsider massively, so you had to be part of it. I mean, I'm not making excuses. As I said, I ended up being probably too good at it. But as you said, trips. I mean, we had to direct to Jim Sloan, whose songs he was ex-Navy, and he was being win or lose it, the booze if you draw us and more. All this sort of stuff going on. And on the coach, you'd have crates of lager, and as you said, you can.
It's the
When we used to obviously get a coach to play up, let's say Newcastle, so you're coming back, you have to stop because the coach driver needed a hour's rest, and we used to stop at hotels originally, have something to eat, but that all got cut. No, we're stopping a pub. So we'd stop in the pub for this time break, so they'd have even more, and God, it'd be
honestly
pouring everyone off.
I didn't realise it was the set, because I thought that we played an okay level. I thought it was at the top levels didn't do that, so that's quite funny to hear.
Kevin Ball and Paul Hardiman told the story of when John Gregory was the manager, and he saw when we were going off, obviously the kick goes on, all these crates of Budweiser were going on and Becks. And he's like, because they were the young lads, so that was don't give them the money to put and he's going, what's that? Well, it's the way I was. And it was starting to change, and he wasn't too impressed with that.
Was that kind of mid-90s?
Yeah, that around about that. And obviously the big change come when Harry sort of knocked all that player bar thing on, that all started to dwindle and go away then. But yeah, the players bar was always the place to get into as quick, especially away from home, get in as many pints as possible for and the coach on the way back before you had to get on the coach.
Well, I honestly, it's loads of memories are coming back from away games, and then we'd always go. There was a chap called Richard Pearson. We would go to the Spread Eagle on the way back, but we often had a pub that would stop at on the way back and carry on drinking. But there were always characters that would come more alive when you're in that environment, and they were just. You just needed to be around them because they had this. It's almost like it woke an energy in them that was really nice to be around because they were funny. The life of the party. I remember characters in my rugby team that were very much like that, and people that were sometimes quiet on the pitch, brilliant at what they did on the pitch, but then when they had a few drinks, they're suddenly like completely different person. Can you say who used to stand out? From a supporter's perspective, I think back, I'd be thinking it'd be people like Johnny Durnin or McLaughlin and Claridge when he came. Would apologies if this is a character assassination, but who were the real fun? Was that you? You know, who were the people that really came alive?
You'd have little groups of, I mean, because obviously I was lucky enough to be with some, and normally the team spirit and the lads would go out together quite a bit. But I suppose the drinkers over the years, the big one, obviously Mickey Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I see Tony now, and he looks $1 million.
Wow.
He was. We used to go Cowpain Social Club, and he'd drink 1664. I remember he dropped me off at home one afternoon, and I'd drink it in the afternoon. We were both injured, and we'd got in 4 or 5 pints of 1664, and he dropped me off outside my house. And I couldn't talk. And Mrs. answered the door, so he shut it straight back in the phone. Blah, blah, blah. But he was brand new, bless him. Yeah, so, yeah, over the years, I mean, but it was great team spirit that it did produce, whether that right or wrong. But that's what all, we weren't obviously hearing other people talk on podcasts or whatever. Other clubs doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think generally it's part and parcel of that because the ethos would generally be work hard, play hard, and you'd sacrifice so much in terms of, yes, you're a professional, and people will often say, well, that's not really a job, you're doing what you really enjoy. But when you turn something into a job, it becomes a job. So you stop actually enjoying it that much. You realize there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders to perform. And of course, there's lots of journals and sports psychology about this. But then when you get that release, because the pressure's so high, when you can then start to get that release, which is that relief, the game's over or whatever it is you've gone through, it's almost like, I've earned this. I've earned the right to get smashed. But that was a cultural phenomenon that's been throughout time, I think, you know, but it is changing. It's changing a lot now. Have you seen that in your last 10 years, 15 years?
As I said, I mean, just thinking back, I'm saying, yeah, I had a great time. And it was. When it was good, it was good. When it was bad, it was bad. When it was good, it was good. And back then, when it was bad, it unravels. Everything that you think's fantastic there's always a price to pay.
Yeah. And so you said you had 20 years, amazing times, and that was part and parcel of it. You couldn't take that out of it. The times wouldn't be the same. And it's the same with me when I reflect on it. Whilst nowadays, with hindsight, you look back and you go, actually, that probably wasn't right. But when you're in it, it is part of it. And for me, there's no, you're not apologizing for that. That's kind of what we grew up with, and that's how it was. But when did you feel, crikey, this has really affected me? What was that kind of moment when you suddenly thought, I need to stop doing this? This isn't right, or my health is bad? What was it? What was the realization?
Well, I had the perfect storm of mental health issues, whatever way you want to put it, things going wrong in my life, all come to a head eventually. I mean, if I sort of name them, there was my marriage was coming to an end. I'd been married to Jen all my career, and then my career was coming to an end. Our marriage was was coming to an end. So I had to deal with that alongside my career, transitioning out and playing, coming to terms with realising the time was done. Bally, bless him, come up with the idea of being a goalie coach, which was fine and great, kept me involved. There was obviously a financial hit with that, going on half of what I was earning as a player. But so there was that, on top of obviously a looming divorce and both with financial sides to that. I never was great with money anyway, to be honest. But relationships problems and my drinking was, now I didn't have any of what we spoke about, those
discipline,
those rules around. Now, as a goalie coach, I was setting up with, well, I say Harry and Jim. Harry wasn't a massive drinker, but Jimmy Smith would say be up, be me and Big Kev, and would set up and be up till quite late in the morning on a Saturday. I mean, I even missed. We were playing Brighton. We were playing Brighton at the old ground.
I remember what the old
not
ground.
Goldstone, but at the where they were in the running track. So we were playing them there. We were staying at the Grand Hotel on the seafront. Had a late night, gone down, had breakfast actually. Had gone off with the kit, because he used to share a room with Kev, the kit man, on the away trips. So I thought, I'd have a quick half-hour's kit. I've gone to kit, they've gone. I've woke up, it's about 12:30. Coach has gone. No one's asked where. They all say they thought I'd gone with Kev earlier on. So no one had checked on me. So I'm like, panic, have to get in the taxi, get to the ground and get in, and I'm there's Shaka waiting for me to kick balls at him. where you been? I fell asleep. Shaka was brilliant. He just laughed it off. So, yeah, so then that was sort of a warning sign, or should have been. Yeah, I mean, so there was all that. My personal life was a mess, and I weren't a very good goalie coach. Weren't really enjoying it. The drinking was sparring, and then Harry left. Decided to up and leave with everyone and go to Saints, which, although I wasn't asked, but that was never going to be an option. And it left me a little bit exposed. I didn't at the time have the best of relationships with Peter Story, but I mean, that is the fact that we didn't have a great one. I can't blame Peter for it. I was a mess. I didn't do myself any favours, and we come to an agreement that I would leave. As I say, financially I was in a mess. I had it written in that I was to leave, that I'd have a benefit game. Peter said, well, if you have the benefit game, then you have to leave. And I went, yeah, I'll do that. And it was horrible, and I left in really... I just left after all those years, and just everything stopped overnight. I went off to America with Colin Clark, went to FC Dallas. I think they call that doing geographicals now in AA. And I've got to be honest, the first 6 months was fantastic. New environment, styles of play. The MLS was obviously lots of travelling. I didn't always travel on road trips, because when they used to go from there up the coast or wherever, they'd go and play a couple of games and fly everywhere. And on one particular, after 6 months, I mean, I was still drinking. There was a Paddy's bar there, but it was...
It's a different culture though, isn't it?
Yeah. But then, unfortunately, they went on a road trip and I'd become ill. I thought, not very well. They'd gone away. They were going to be away for about 4 or 5 days. Anyway, I was ill, and the ground at FC Dallas was the first soccer pit stadium ever built. Anyway, then they had Baylor Medical, part of their partners in sponsorship with Baylor Medical. It's all a bit complicated out there on the side of the medical side.
We weren't that deep into that.
So I went in there, everyone had gone. I went in there and they took me temperature, blood pressure. They said, well, you need to get down to the Baylor one, down the freeway on the this, that, and the other. So it's about an hour's drive. So I'm driving, was sweating. I got to this hospital, went in, took me bloods and everything. They went, your appendix is burst. You got to go in. So went in and it was infected. I almost lost my bowel as well, because So I was in for 3 days. It was lovely. It's like the Marriott, but no one knew where I was. My cell phone, so I'm talking American,
Uh,
my mobile had run out of battery, had no charge, and no one knew where I was, apart from my car being there. So in the end, I was in for 3-4 days. But at the end of it, they come up and went, "Yeah, you owe us $100,000. Well, I ain't
you
even
need
got that.
insurance out.
I got $100,000 or 100,000. I said, well, when I cut it,
Take
when I
my
went,
appendix.
my Medicare was meant to be in place by the club. I went, obviously there was a link. Otherwise, I don't know if they'd have let me out, but they let me out. And it was an ongoing palaver around that where the club hadn't put me Medicare in place. But I do believe that it got resolved in the end. I think it was $30,000 in the end, which obviously the club had to sort out. But that, and after that, things sort of changed at the club for me there. So that was sort of hanging over me a little bit, the money side of it, what was going to go on. With the club, we were, because you play a full season, then you go into the playoffs. It's weird. And we were top of the conference we were in, but we went in and we had to play Denver, Colorado in the playoffs. So we went to their place. It was in altitude and at their sort of American football stadium, and there was about 2,000 people. It's empty.
Wow, yeah.
Playing it. So long story short, we got beat on penalties. Shaka had come out, actually managed to get Shaka out there, but Shaka wasn't playing. He had a bit of a mare, to be honest. But so we had this Argentinian guy in goal. Anyway, it went to penalties. We got beat on penalties. Where at the same stage the year before when Colin was there, but the goalkeeper knocked out the geezer who scored the winning penalty.
What out of anger?
Because they're celebrating, he's gone over and knocked him out. That's just an idea.
I
Anyway,
need to look that up. I didn't know that.
yeah, so I thought you can write it. Yeah, Mario. So
When, was the appendicitis that happening? Was that a result of unhealthy living, or what was there anything that was attributed to that, or was that just a matter of course that would have happened regardless?
I think that would have happened regardless. As I say, after that game, Colin got released as head coach. They did ask me to stay, but with what had gone on, I did miss home. I mean, my relationship with daughters, I had more or less destroyed and made it very difficult with my behaviours. But I wanted to come back, so I come back. By then, it was just into the new year. Full season's already going. And to be honest, my reputation, I think, had preceded me. There was nothing in the professional game for me. And I come back to give him his due. Kevin Bond gave me a little bit of work at Bournemouth at the time, when he was at Bournemouth. Eddie Hours, he was youth team manager there at the time. So Eddie's obviously gone on and done brilliant.
Harry held Eddie in very high esteem as well. I remember when Eddie was coming through, Harry saw him as he.
So I was there for a little while, but that was only a couple of days a week. Weren't travelling up and down. And again, it seemed like I was back as an apprentice because they were in real financial difficulties at that time. They were close to going bust as well. Sorry, go on.
No. Sorry to jump in. I'm just because, but the last person I spoke to, Crawford Ashley, top level boxer, had 3 world title fights, 4 years, now one of the best boxers of the time, an incredible career. And kind of at the end of that, it's almost like a cliff edge. And it feels the way you're talking now is a kind of similar fate, despite this incredible backstory and pedigree as a professional footballer. Kind of, you get to the end of that. Where's the net to catch these people? What's there in place?
Well, there wasn't really anything. I mean, as I said, I come back and personal life was, as I said, a complete mess. And it's not, as I spoke prior to coming on, I talk about other people as such, because it was me that messed up massively. But as I said, when I come back, I had no real income. I was skint, going bust, blah, blah, blah. Then I had to get a job, a real job. A guy called Lee Jackson, who runs Jackson Groundwork.
Yeah, I've met Lee, the base camp chief.
Yeah. Lee, we got to meet Lee and his dad. His dad was a great guy, man, fantastic. Dave a fantastic man. So I got to meet them, and they were a bit weary of me to start with, and they gave me a bit of work as a ground worker. First doing some like private jobs with them, and then a couple of civil bits. I couldn't hold a shovel, didn't know how to hold a shovel or anything like that, but they gave me some work. I wasn't reliable, I was drinking, and although it may sound great, and there was a couple of landlords. There's one up at the Free Marines, Andy at the Free Marines. Andy was brilliant for me, but for me in the same way, I love him to death. Allowed me to stay there because I was basically homeless. I was at one stage living out of the car.
This is mad.
Sleeping in my motor and stuff like that. But I could go in the pubs and they'd give me beer.
You got freedom of the city.
I know, I don't work the best thing in the world for an alcoholic. I mean, it sounds great, but I mean, I'm skipping over a lot of stuff, but over quite a long period. And people over that time had said, "Oh, I think you got a problem. I'm big time. I'm out. No,
it's
I
just
don't like the drink. Not a problem." But it all sort of come to an end. I've missed out a few other bits and bobs that went on. Obviously, my groundwork, and I was not reliable with that. The one bright thing in between all that was my time at having a Waterlooville.
So was this at the beginning of the 2000s when you went?
Yeah, well, I went there with Sean Gow, gave me a role as goalie coach there, and he had a really terrific team he put together there. And that's when the cup run went to played up at Anfield against Liverpool. And
yes, Brett Pope was in that team.
Yeah, all those lads.
Yeah.
And a fantastic bunch of lads, and they're probably there. It was just a really good time. I almost fell back in love with football then. But I had a great time with them, but I was still drinking. That ended up with me boozy as well. And then the next year, this is when I started to realise I had a problem, was I was meant to be doing groundwork and kicking balls at goalies that haven't. And I was making excuses not to go. I was sat in the pub and I was going on and ringing up, I'm not feeling very well. And then I'd rather be in the boozer than doing what I should be doing. But then, as I say, a few years down, a few disasters were going on personal levels and what have you. It was this weekend, it was a weekend, I'd come back into Pompey. I'd actually moved up to Crawley with my mate Trevor for a while. Again, a geographical get out of the madness and away from everyone giving me free drink and stuff like that, and all the other bits and bobs. I come back I got a phone call from someone, and I come back, and I shouldn't have come back into town. Anyway, I come back on the Friday, or the Thursday night, Friday, Saturday morning. I'd been to a funeral prior to coming, so I still had this black suit and tie on that I'd had on for a few days. And I remember waking up somewhere in Southsea, down the corner from here, and I'd walked that morning along this road, over Fratton Bridge. Pompey were at home, and it was getting busying up the old Witherspoons there.
Yeah, the Jean-Jacques corner.
People were outside. Are you coming to the game? And come and this, that, come in, have a beer. No, I was dragging myself back to my mates, Paul Riddler's in Copner. So I got back to Copner, saw Paul. It was still early. He said, "Come on, go in Copner's snooker hall." Went in there. Obviously, I was smoking at the time. Stayed in there. People were obviously driving to the game.
Seeing you outside,
people could see me having a fag with a pint outside, or going, "All right, Al, you going to the game?" All this. And I'm going, So, long story short, ended up into a fairly long one, and then they had the harvest home across the road. Went across into there after the game, obviously saw everyone coming back, got to 8 o'clock-ish in the evening, and I just burst into tears. So, well, I don't work with my mates, I was going to say so. Yeah. Mates, I had my mates around me, and they were like, "What's up with you?" And I'm bawling my eyes.
Yeah.
I'd had enough.
So that was you had just suddenly hit absolute saturation point.
Done, yeah.
That's you talked about that transition being, because you're so relevant. You're number one. You're literally number one. And as you're coming to the end of that career, that must be that horrible realization that fuck, I'm no longer like the main man. Where do I go? Because it's a similar thing with sports. I've got very good friends that played. Grant Morris, great guy, and he again when he's still playing. I don't know how he's still playing. He's still playing. But both of us have had that kind of realization is I'm no longer relevant. And you're seeing all these young lads coming through. And was that when you're watching all these people then going to the game, which you, like I said, that's the heartbeat of the city. That's kind of where your soul is. And you're watching all these people going to that game and you're there having was it then? Was it then you were sort of thinking, do you think it was that profound or was it that gave you that sudden emotional experience?
The big part of that, but it was a culmination of everything that was going on. I mean, I spoke earlier on that I was sometimes having to sleep in the car. I was sofa surfing at with friends, Paul Riddler's, and sleeping with these. And although Paul was fantastic for me and we were good, I would like to say we are friends, but we were bad for each other in the respect of drinking.
Influence,
Well, even to the point of where we'd be drinking and then going to bed and then we'd get up in the morning and go, oh shit, we woke up. You'd be gutted that we woke up. We wanted to base, because drink ourselves to death. To that extent, you'd be thinking, how long's this hell going to go on for? And that's what it sort of got to. And as I said, even to the point of when I used to sleep in the car, I'd be down the seafront and then think about, would I walk into the sea? How would you, those suicidal thoughts that I did have. And it had, as I say, got to that without being too dramatic. But that's definitely the thought.
That's not dramatic. Like that's scary, Al. I didn't know that. We're seeing many, like I said before, the reason for this is to kind of provide context and stories to anybody listening so they can understand, regardless of the stature and success of people, this is kind of this mental health thing is something we're all going to have to deal with in our lifetimes and some to more varying degrees. You had the real extremes of the highest highs, you got promoted to the Premiership, you were in the semi-final of the FA Cup, an unfortunate second leg penalty issue. You got your finger to it, had your finger off, you may have tipped it around the post, but all those things going ahead. So you've hit those incredible highs that so many billions of people that walk this earth will never, ever experience. And then you're talking to me about that, you wish you'd never wake up. Is there anything that kind of built the strength in you to, you obviously sat here, so something stopped you doing that. But is there anything what advice do you have for people, or was there an experience or a thought process, or was it friends? What was it that started giving you that personal value of yourself and realized, I've got too much here. I'm not going to do that. Yes, it's tough, but I've got to pull through. Was there that recollective moment? What was it?
Well, I think obviously a pivotal moment was that hitting rock bottom in the Harvest Home. As I say, I was bawling my eyes out there. I'd had enough. They're saying, I said, no, I'm done. I've had enough. I can't do this no more. And then the lads that were there, Mickey Jenkins was there, obviously Paul was there. They go in touch with my ex-brother-in-law, Keith Whiting, former player, my ex-brother-in-law. And Keith come in, said, look, I'll take you back to Mum's, my ex-mother-in-law's. He took me back there and sat me down there and obviously stayed the next morning. I'm still in this gear, Sunday morning, sorry. And I'm sat there, cup of tea, shaking while I'm drinking it and looked like a right bag of shit. And whilst I'm there in the front room, door opens, in comes my youngest daughter, Rebecca, 7, 8. She's looked at me, but the look on her face, and it weren't disgust. It was one of like fear. Not that she was scared of me, but she just scared
she's seeing her dad. Yeah,
seeing her dad in a mess, and that has always stayed with me. And even when I do shares, it normally makes me well up a little bit. Need to do something. And then, as I said, I'd left Crawley where I'd been staying with Trevor. The idea then, Trevor come down to get me. I actually went into the Shearer Arms waiting for him, and I'd had a pint. I'd bought a pint.
Just off New Road and
I just put it in front of me, waiting for him. Never drunk it. Just looked at it. Still smoking. Didn't drink the pint. Just sat there. Trev come and got me. Then a phone call was made. Someone tried to make a phone call to Sporting Chance, which Tony Adams had obviously started up. I'd heard about Sporting Chance. Well, I'm not an alky, blah blah blah, and all this.
Yeah.
So the phone call was made. They said, no, Al has to make the call. We'll have to talk to one of the therapists. So I made the call. spoke to Julian, who was one of the therapists at the time, Julian. He said, well, can you get in on Thursday and we'll do an assessment on you? I said, yeah, fine, where are you? He said, oh, we're at Chapney's, we're at the back of Chapney's at Libbok. I went, yeah, okay, I'll get there. Trevor said, I'll get you there. Fast forward, before that, I went and hid with Trevor's up at Crawley Way. And then had the assessment at Sporting Chance, spoke with Julian, and he said, yeah, you need to come in for a 26-day treatment, but we're starting one on Monday. Can only have 4 at a time at that time, and we got a full contingent of people. Look, if someone drops out, or you can't get me in, if anything happens, you get me in. Please get me in. I said, because I don't trust myself not to be back on it and disappearing off on the booze. So they were fine. And to be honest, I left there, and before I even got back into, I was coming back into Portsmouth at the time, they'd spoken to a couple of the younger lads that were going to be on the treatment, who were prepared to share a room, and that allowed me the chance to get in. And not to put too fine a point in it, that opportunity to go in there saved my life.
Oh.
It changed me and my whole outlook on everything.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, yeah, it was life-changing. As I spoke about Julian already, the other top therapist, James, at the time, God bless him, James West, absolutely unbelievable. What they did or do, and still do up there, is amazing. I went in there. I said, I didn't think I was an alkie. I thought I was going to go there. Went to AA meetings. What kind of AA meetings for? I said, full of alkies down there. And I had no idea. I thought they were just going to make me drink normally.
Yeah.
That I'd be able, I won't have to absolutely go in a blackout and be smashed. But they walked me through it. There's the 12 steps. That's part of the thing. And did the first 3 there. But I did have a light bulb moment there. And literally, whilst doing the steps through with James, and he did a thing that it's all changed now, but everything I went through with him saw that all the bad things, all the disasters that had happened through my life were associated with my drinking.
Yeah.
And drinking.
That's powerful stuff, isn't it?
And the room did light up, literally lit up. Everything became multicoloured. Yeah. And it just opened my eyes to it. So that's just, 17 years ago that happened. And thankfully I've not touched it since.
What's the FA Cup year, was that? So went up to lift the FA Cup. That was 2008.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Just
so all this was going on.
It was just after that. Yeah, I went to the final. With Paul, lost him somewhere. Went there, got smashed, didn't really see the game. It was not long after that I went.
Because these are all pivotal moments in that I remember. Being it was at Cardiff, wasn't it? Was it?
Yeah,
yeah. These are things, obviously, as a fan, kind of from afar, you don't see, and you would never understand the battles that you're going through. So you were fortunate to have someone that said, "Look, mate, this is what you need." You were lucky to have that, but you had that because of who you are. But from your perspective now, looking back, what advice do you have for people that? Because lots of people watching this would have played sport to a fairly decent level, and alcohol, as we know, is a big part of that. I know it's changing a lot nowadays. I've got kids who are of age now, and they don't really drink. Whereas I remember being down Canoe Lake at 13, getting smashed, and all the other bits that went through it, and that was kind of the tradition, and not tradition. That was kind of expected, and it was part of that culture. So, what's your advice to blokes that start thinking, actually, alcohol's probably a bad thing for me? Because I did the same, and it's recently my kids and my wife said to me, every weekend you were so drunk you were unrecognisable. We wouldn't want to be near you, and that's kind of horrible to hear.
Yeah.
Because at the time you don't think that at all. And again, I didn't think that I had a problem, but I would do that without doubt, without all the time. And thankfully, it was more, my kids kind of and my wife having a word with me and said, "This has got to stop. Your behaviour's not right, and you're putting too much strain on my family." And luckily, they kind of jumped on it at a time there. But you went through all of that pain. And then you had the light bulb moment. So what's your advice to people out there now who could be kind of going through that journey of not understanding yet? What would you say to any blokes listening, or women? Of course, it's a similar culture in
Yeah, I mean, but there's all various ways of going about it. I mean, you can speak with your doctor. I know they're getting a doctor appointment, not always the easiest way, but they might be able to signpost groups around the area. Always go into an AA meeting. I know I was the same, but there were people in there that will signpost you and help you along the way. I know it can be a bit of a daunting and scary thought, but the people in there are really, really nice. We're all the same, we're all helping, so we want to help one another. And yeah, I know everyone thinks it's a sect full of weirdos, but I mean, it's got a few weirdos, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. I know it's easy to say it really is, because it took me a bloody long time to.
What are the signs? I know it's easy to say, well, you drink all the time, but is there something else? Alcoholics will generally deny it. Denial's the bigger issue, isn't it? And I know it's part of the 12-step process. It's addressing it and saying, I'm an alcoholic. But what do you have advice for people in those groups that might see someone that's really affected by it and they don't kind of know how to gauge it with them? And what about addressing it with how was it addressed with you? And you've explained it, but was it very light touch first, or how did it work with you?
Yeah, I think it is a light touch. There's no one going to bat you over the head and say, you can't drink, you can't do it, you're an alcoholic. You go in and you'll know yourself. You know yourself, I think, when you know you have a drink issue or a drink problem or alcoholism. And it's being honest with yourself. It's about gaining your self-worth again. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad person. Everyone thinks they're all going to go back to the drink and need to drink. I get that. And maybe the other thing was, although I've been very lucky that I've never relapsed, but never giving up, and always go again.
You find that then? So on a Saturday, I saw you down for that part last season, so you're still there around the club.
Yeah.
You do a lot you're involved with the hospitality element as well. You're obviously tempted. Is it just a case of discipline and accountability then?
No, I've got to be honest, I'm never tempted.
Wow.
There's no, I struggle with drunks, I must admit. That can be, because since my recovery, they do say, like, for the first year, don't get into any relationship, find your own self and get used to being with yourself, basically.
Yeah.
That's short of a year. I met Heather, my wife, and Heather doesn't drink, very supportive. She's a big part of my recovery as well, even more so with obviously the health stuff. But we ended up getting married pretty quickly. And as it says, lots of good things happen whilst you're in your recovery. And I'm not religious or
I was going to ask you about any spiritual stuff.
No, there's a lot of spiritual stuff and the word God. I've got beyond. When I went into my first meetings, I saw the God this, God that, and I'm like, oh, but it's a God of your understanding and a higher power and stuff like that. And I have a belief there is a higher power. That's my recovery. But as I said, I come out of there. I went back to being a ground worker with Lee's Jackson Groundworks, working on the airport, Heathrow. I was working airside Heathrow, where I was in snow base for a while. Although it only snowed really once there, I could drive the snow plows around these multi-million-pound jumbos and stuff like that. I mean, obviously it's not a job of choice, and I have a lot of respect for ground workers now, because I didn't realise working in the real world what that's like, especially when you're the world's worst ground worker as well. But so I did that for a while, and things change, and whether that's your higher power or whatever, without getting too weird. But in a weird way, obviously I was coming through my recovery. The club again went into administration, and that's when I text Guy Whittingham, because Guy and also taken over as caretakers. I was in the minibus at 5:30 in the morning on the way to Heathrow with all the lads and in the minibus there. And then I texted him that if you want to go here, I heard John Keeley had left to go to Blackburn. And then he texted back, yeah, I'll give you a bell. He rang back when we got there. He said, I'll speak to the administrators. How much do you want? And I said, well, day rate, whatever I'm doing here. And he come back. He said that they'd okayed it. And then I come in. That was a Thursday. So I come in on the Friday. Eastwood and Smithy were the goalies at the time. Met them, warmed them up at Fratton on the Saturday. I was back. And it was again, that little period of time from there to when the club was actually saved by the, I know we got relegated, but it was a fantastic little time. And then obviously following the season didn't all work out too well. And then it was well known that I wasn't particularly the best goalie coach in the world, and the game had moved on massively from when I was there. And then that's when I was given the role as ambassador. And as I say, but what I'm alluding to is basically things all started to change around for me. Once I managed to get myself sober, and lovely magical things happened. And even now, you spoke about, your wife knows my daughter Jade. I've got a relationship with Jade that was really bad at the time, and rightfully so. She was very, very upset with me.
I think we all go through these different journeys in life where you hit darkness and depths when you're there, you don't know you're there. And the wonderful thing is as you develop and you grow and you make amends for those things, and there are always going to be things that weigh down in your conscience, because that's, I suppose, as human spirit, you are so unforgiving to yourself sometimes in certain bits. But by the way, you said it's a bit weird I don't think that's weird. Personally, I've got faith. I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I'll never push that on anyone.
No. I have no problem with people with their faiths or their religions. It's great.
But when you're talking about your journey, there are some wonderful things that happen, and I don't believe anything's by accident. When you were talking to me about the depths of the place you'd gone, and I was feeling that, I could see you outside having a fag in a suit that you'd had on 3 days, and the weight of everything couched. I was feeling that. I was thinking, crikey, you could have easily pressed the wrong button there, and it could have gone the other way. But you sat here now. You've made amends. You're building those bridges back with family ties, etc., etc. It was really lovely to hear. So how are you today? And I know you've got other battles that you're dealing with now. So how is Alan Knight right now?
I still go back to, obviously, like what you said there. I mean, I do believe there has been a higher power that has helped me through what I've gone through. I was a vile, horrible twat, but what's been's been, and that I can't change. I can't change that.
I don't believe.
No, but this is my thinking and things. And I try to make amends with as many people as I can along that, which is part of the 12-step process as well. And I am truly sorry on some of the things that I have done or done against people. But I live and look for today as much as possible, which will lead us on to what we're coming. What's going to be is going to be. And I've just one day at a time, another AA saying. And I've lived by that, not regimentally. It just seems to be happening. And things that are happening seem to be happening for a reason or whatever. I mean, I ended up back at Sporting Chance as a support worker. I've done stuff there, still do.
Awesome.
I go back there and I see lads, because we've spoken about mental health issues, and you see that I'm not the only one that done that. Unfortunately, other players and sports people, but also normal people have these issues as well. And they shouldn't feel ashamed of that. No, you do. But no, we do. And we try to hide that all away, but you need to know.
It's human, isn't it?
But that's it. You feel you've let yourself down, let everything, and that there's something, but never be ashamed to seek help. As for me now, well, obviously quite well documented about me having obviously stage 4 prostate cancer, which just over a year ago. I was, it's weird. I noticed, and I've had to get up a couple of times, as you know, already still, even though I'm treatment, but having the need to have a wee. So
I realised. Sorry, we're back after a quick comfort break, and Alan was just about to talk about where he is now. But before we started recording, we were talking about your current condition, like your stage 4 cancer. I didn't know it's stage 4 either, but I did read something that you're managing it. But one of the symptoms is getting up and needing a wee a lot, and I realised that I need a wee a lot. But anyway, that's something maybe I need to go and get looked at.
Well, I mean, obviously, because you talk back about obviously the drinking and the used to need a wee all the time. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if I've been really brutally honest, and I don't think it matters to say it, but also the stream as well. You to be able to pee up the wall.
Yeah. All
that old game, it started to be a dribble as well. So there was something going on, but you'd push it back to you. And as I said, my mate Trevor had stayed with her and still is my mate, Trev. A friend of ours, where Trevor lived, he had, and his brother both had prostate cancer issues. And luckily they got caught early, but they obviously knew the symptoms. So I was talking to Trevor and I'd gone, oh, keep pissing all the time and can't, not the normal bloke talk chat. He said, well, you'll give yourself a PSA. I'm going, what are you on about? He said, yeah, well, he talked about Mark and his brother. He said, yeah, they had the same issue. They got a PSA. You don't have to have the finger now and all that. Try and do that. I went, oh, okay. So I didn't really think much of it. Anyway, on the Monday, this is the Monday after the weekend, obviously, I was in, as luck should have it, luck or higher power, whatever way you want to put it, I went in for a pre-diabetes blood test down at the surgery, which is every couple of years. Got in, I sat in with a nurse, and she said, I'm awful with needles, pain and all sorts. Well, not so much now because I've so many needles, unbelievable. But anyway, she's about to do it, and I said, PSA tests. I said, how'd you go about getting one of them? She goes, well, she said, I can actually add it onto this. I went, oh, great, yeah, if you don't mind, just add it on. Didn't think nothing of it. So she took it. This is, let's say, Monday morning. Just spoke about doing some support work up at Sporting Chance. I'd done the Tuesday night then. On the Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock, phone rings and it says doctor surgery. So I was there and went, yeah, hi. He said, oh, Mr. Knight, Dr. Stanley would like you to come in at 10 o'clock. Do you mind coming in? I went, no, yeah, fine. I'll see you at 10. I just thought it was about me pre-diabetes stuff, not even thinking about PSA. So I went in and I didn't see Stanley. I saw this other doctor, and don't mean this, but I can't pronounce his name. Big black guy. And I'm not making a joke of this at all, but it was a big black guy. He'd gone, yeah, sorry, your PSA's come back. You come back at 34.1.
Yeah.
I went, yeah. Exactly. He went, well, it's meant to be no higher than 4 or 5. I went, oh, okay. He went, are you okay if I do an examination? I went, well, go on, then, yeah, you're going to have to. So, obviously, I get up, does the finger, and I get and I went, well, that don't sound too good. He said, no, your prostate's grossly enlarged. He said, and obviously the high amount of the PSA, he said, I'm going to put you on a urgent suspected cancer referral.
Just quickly, PSA, that's like an infection marker, isn't it? It's something they measure in your urine or
in the blood,
and it shows that your body's fighting something. It's like antibody. Is it antibodies?
You know more than me. I don't know. I don't know the full into that, and I'll probably fix it. I don't, but I was just told, and then I know what you're saying, because some people say it's not the most
accurate.
Yeah, and then sometimes it can be, but
yeah,
I'm now on this suspected cancer. And that's all I hear, suspected cancer referral. And I thought, wow, So I've come out of there. He said, well, it goes through things. I'm not really listening. So I'm coming out of there now. I've got to ring Heather. Do I ring her before or wait till she comes home? But it's playing on my mind. So I rang her at work and I said, well, explain to her. She's like, wow, where do we go from here? But I've got to be honest, they were fantastic up at QA.
Yeah.
From there, within a week or so, I was up. Urology. We're getting my oncology and urology.
Yeah.
Urology went in. Another exam, chat with him. He said, yeah, on the exam, obviously enlarged nodules, we're going to give you a MRI scan, and there was some other thing that I took as well. Well, before I even left, I just walked down to the car park. I managed to get my one of the scans done. And then we managed to get all the scans done. Biopsy was an experience where they go in and take bits of the prostate out to obviously examine. And then within a couple of weeks, I was back in there. It's not right. I'd all those done over a couple of weeks. Then it was a few weeks that was a wait for the results. So I go back into urology, meet the guy who then says, on your biopsy, you sort of split into quarters the prostate, he said, and then there's a Gleason score, 1 to 10.
Right.
Said 1 to 4's okay, 4 to 7's not great, 8 to 10, then you got a problem. He said, so like dotted, and he just dotted all over mine. I went, well, what's my score? He said, you're 10. And I'm like, wow. Just the first 10 out of 10 I'd ever got. But he's gone, so yeah, it's riddled. And trying to remember if it was there. It wasn't, yeah, when we were there, he said, and we filled out in May of Spring. So look, I'm going away, but I'm going to do this, do that. You've got to go on to oncology to see the consultant there. So I went in, saw the consultant, and he's the one who said, yeah, it's spread into your pelvis and a lymph node. And I'm like, wow. Thank God Heather's there, because she's now listening to what's being said. All I hear is that it's stage 4 spread. I'd open my mouth and I'd think, oh, how long have I got? Like a flash, it goes 5 to 10 years. So now I'm trying in my head to work that one out. Because one sentence I think, oh, not too bad. And then in another one I think, oh, there's a time on it. But as I say, Heather had the chat. He said, look, we're going to go with chemo and obviously radiotherapy. He said because he said it's only a small patch, but it's a really sort of aggressive form that you've got. So we're going to go with a sledgehammer against what would seem a walnut, but you're young enough and fit enough and you should be all right to do the chemo and everything on top. And I was I got to be honest, I've been very lucky with the chemo, with the side effects. I mean, I wasn't sick.
Did you lose your hair?
I lost my hair a little bit. It's coming back a little bit. Yeah. I've put on 3.5 stones, but everyone says it's better than losing it. But yeah, that's, I think, with the tablets and everything. So we went through all that. Went back in and he said it hadn't spread any further. So he was happy with that. He said, look, there isn't a cure. There's not a curable stage 4. It's about managing it and, yeah, keeping it under control. So my treatment now is for the rest of my life is hormone therapy. I have tablets that I take morning and night. And when I first started, I used to have
injections,
3 monthly injections in the belly.
You said that was more painful than anything else.
That was the worst. That was the worst thing. So when we went back in, I've been doing this for about. First off, they give you one whack. So, and then they do it alternately as it went. I did about I was going to say 4 months of it or whatever. And we'd gone in. And he's talking about it. Yeah, I'm happy about it. Because at first he wasn't too sure about the scans because there was a flare up and he wasn't sure it hadn't. But then by the time I had the next lot, he said, yeah, that's just from the chemo, the flare up from the chemo. I'm happy that it's settled and it's working. I said, what's the injections? I said, So that don't sound like a squinny, but
Squiddy, that's such
that
a
was
popular
really,
saying, isn't
very,
it?
really painful. Even, well, no, they've come out with a tablet you can have now, pill,
What, you
one a
can bring
day
that
on
in your
top of the ones
sadistic
you got.
kit?
Like, great. So that was like a big win-win. I know everything's happy. I'm got rid of the most painful thing. So
Just coming back, I think we've talked so much. If you think about those chapters of things you've got over, they're pretty incredible. You said the alcoholism, thinking about walking into the sea and not coming back out, and drinking yourself too so much that you're gone, and then you're on the up again. You're finding your feet. You're building strength. You're building bridges. You're building relationships. You go to the doctor with Heather, your new wife, and then you hear this. So how have you dealt with that? And how have you maintained that positive? I suppose you always have to find the positive, of course, but how have you got over that? And again, what advice do you have for people who are in those dark? Because you've just been hit with horrific news. What's kept you going and kept you positive? Is it more a case of now you're like, right, I need to live life to its max. This is what I got. I've got this chance.
well, first and foremost, can honestly say, not the thought of having a drink into me head. Not at all. In fact, even more so, I was thinking, well, why would I want to do that with the time I've got left? And I'm not being maudlin, but for me, and I know everyone's different, but for me, I think the big thing was, first off, obviously letting my family know what the situation was, and then going public without being too, well, I'm gushy about it, but the outpouring of love that I've received from everyone has been a massive boost. First and foremost from my family. They've been fantastic. They've been around me, and I think they're probably getting fed up with me now, bless them. But then obviously we went public. The guys, Tony Mal, Malcolm Drew, got this game organised. The club were fantastic around it. All the former players that come back. And as I said, and the supporters that turned up on it wasn't a great weather day, but they come out in the thousands. So we raised a great deal of money and a lot of support. And people men that have come up to me saying, thank you. I've done this. It's come back. It ain't been great, but I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
And some, I did it. I was clear, but I'm glad I did. So all that sort of stuff, as I say, all gushy, that's made it all worthwhile and yeah, made me feel good. At the moment, touch wood, don't want to talk too soon. You got some side effects even from this hormone therapy stuff. Still got bits and bobs that go on. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what it could possibly be. It's just about being, I suppose, positive. I'm not the most positive person in the world. Well, I'm a lot better than I used to be. Impressive, especially when I think back and I go back and just talking to you and remembering bits, and I know I've gone off on tangents because there is other stuff that's
it's all important context. This is the point, though, is really trying to take these things that are in there to come out.
Yeah, without all being all gushy and that, I mean, it's been the love and support shown by everyone, and things people have done above and beyond, especially, as I say, my family have been brilliant. Yeah, okay, again, without being too much of one day at a time, going to try and enjoy it as much as I possibly can, yeah.
So what's the, and I love what you were saying there, because that is the truth. When I truly recollect those times where I've just got such fond memories, it's always around love. It's always around love and kindness and people going out their way to help you. And they're the bits, that's when you truly grasp life, I think, is when you've got that collective spirit of love. And
I mean, people have been fantastic, and it is the love. I mean, it's too easy to be negative and
you couldn't have said that in the 90s, could you? You'd have been rolling.
Well, no, I mean, and obviously what we spoke about when I think I've been sat in my car and wanting to drink myself to death, and how selfish I was then, and now things have changed around in that respect, and it's another thing to give me a kick up the backside.
What's the next chapter for Alan and I? Apart from, you said taking each day at a time, absolutely. But have you got any plans for anything? Are you going to help are you going to be involved in football in any way? Are you going to be involved in any sort of male mental health stuff? Because I know you're active in that too.
Yeah.
But again, from just men taking care of themselves, and not, because we often think we're really resilient, we're fine, we can do it all right. You throw your body around, you put all sorts of stuff in your body, you think, I'll be fine, I'm invincible. But then that thing hits you, right? So what advice have you got for geezers out there, who hold you up there as well, and keeping them that straight and narrow, and getting over those demons, getting over that darkness?
Yeah, I think enjoy your life, enjoy it. I know it can get on top. But as I said earlier, if you are struggling with your mental health and stuff isn't working for you, do not feel any less of a man to ask for help. That's the thing.
Out, yeah.
Go ask for help. Enjoy your life. Can get out of control, but there are ways of getting it back under control. I wish I could have done that. I've seen that a lot earlier. Especially for young men, it's really difficult with all their peer pressures and stuff. And for me, go with the flow. I'm still lucky enough to be the ambassador at this great football club. I get involved with various mental health things that are going on. I'll fill in if the manager can't make an event or the players can't, to heading up a full-scale men's mental health week or whatever they may put on. But
well, I'll share some links for this and on the channel, because I think certainly for if people with a sporting background, you kind of have this pride thing where you don't reach out, you don't say things. And I think we're in a lot better place nowadays because I'm involved in some sort of mental health groups with blokes. We used to jump in the sea and have that chat we talked about. I think people are much more open to it. There's a WhatsApp group in my first podcast with a chap called Kerry Packer, and he's part of this group that we elevate. If someone puts a message on there, guys, I'm not feeling great, bang, everyone jumps on it. It's a great thing. We could share the details of that even, but the final bit, coming back to football, I know the world has changed. Kids grow up, and they grow up with the internet. They're growing up with social network. So they're very different human beings to what we were. Not having that. But do you have any advice for any young lads watching this who might have these aspirations to become professional footballers or professional sportsmen in whichever field? Yeah, for example, my son wants to be a professional bodybuilder, and he's utterly committed and devoted, and that's one of the key things, right? But there is always going to be rejection. You were fortunate in many ways, and because you had the talent, but you had people who had belief in you. But do you have any advice for these kids, because they might feel that rejection that much?
Well, for the young kids, I mean, obviously, again, the game I'm talking about on footballing sides of things, and I look at the way academies now take kids at 8 years old, even and put them through the system. Now, I may get myself in a little bit of bother for this, but it's the way I feel. I think sometimes that puts too much pressure on the kids at that age. I don't, me personally, and I have to be careful what I say, because there are people who obviously have jobs within that side of things through academies, and I don't want to stop people having their job. I just don't feel it's right. I mean, I'm old school. I know 14 was when you got to a club and signed or associated to that club. I was maybe a bit younger, 12 would be good enough. I think let the kids go and play with their mates. Enjoy their football. I go and watch my grandson now, Thomas, plays for Moneyfields under 9s, and watch those kids playing. And I know a few have been taken on at Bournemouth or I see so many kids coming through that system and then being jettisoned.
Yeah.
And I am going to get myself in trouble for this, but I see it happening up at Sporting later on, and ramifications of what happens to those people or those lads that the wheels come off. I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. My words of wisdom, if there is one, which go back to what I just said, enjoy your football.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Because being perfectly honest, I love playing, miss the fact that I can't play even now. I've got a bit of resentment about that. Bodies can't do those things anymore. But enjoy your football. I worry about football where it's overcoached now.
Yeah.
It's all about the coaches.
There's less flair.
They don't allow the players to go and play the game, and that worries me about football in general, but that's the way the modern game is, and I ain't going to be able to change that. Go and enjoy your football. I want Thomas to go on and enjoy his football. play his youth football, go and play. Hopefully there still is men's football at that level on a Saturday, Sunday day with his mates, play with his mates. Team. That's what you used to do. You used to play with your mates all the way through. Don't seem to happen so much now. Football's about enjoying the game. When you become a professional, that gets sucked out.
Yeah, because it becomes that job, and it's that.
It becomes a job. Pressures in and around it.
Yeah.
I'm not being loved my job. I hated football sometimes. I'll be honest, I hated it, but I love football. And contradictory, but yeah.
No, I think that's a clear statement. Yeah, you do love football, and like I said, you are part and part. When you think of Portsmouth Football Club, Alan Knight is up there, right? You are part and parcel of this club, and as far as I remember, the club, it's you, right? I think of. It sounded a bit weird. I think of you, Alan. You know, you're a big part of that.
I mean, as I say, I've been very lucky. Respect and football. The beauty of football and most sports is you can have an opinion as a supporter, as a player, as a coach. You have an opinion, and I wouldn't stop anyone from having that opinion, or unless it really sort of something weird. But yeah, as I said, my opinion around the other bits of probs is nothing against the coaches that are at the football club or whatever. It's my opinion on the way the game has changed.
I think that's all very relevant. Agreed. I think young kids need to live. They need to grow up first, you know. And if they're kind of being put in these environments away from the family, whilst it's for this elite level.
Yeah, again, that word elite level and that elitism, but it also on the parents. You have to invest a lot of time if your kid's in an academy,
travelling up and
down, getting them in near enough every night. If you're in Pompey and you're taking them to Bournemouth or Brighton or Southampton, no, they have some, but that's what I see and I hear from various parents. They do have to invest a lot of time, and then we go all the way through, and then it sort of all ends rather abruptly.
Yeah.
As I said, and that unfortunately can have its
downsides too, because there's all that promise and that thinking, wow, I'm in the system now, this could be it. And then right at the end, when you're 16, it's like, nah, you don't. Like your mate at Bognor, he carried on. He carried on playing. He still enjoyed his football, didn't he?
That said, you end up going, and again, I don't mean the level. You find a level.
Yeah.
You'll say that is your level. But it goes back to, unfortunately, some players who could have played at a lot higher and play at a lower level than they probably should be. But and maybe vice versa. But I mean that's the way of the game, I'm afraid.
So where can people reach out to you at all? Have you got your socials, Instagram or anything like that?
I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, and I've had quite a few people on Instagram. It's not closed. I think people can get hold of me. I've had various people contact me, as I say, over those, messaged me on Messenger and stuff like that about various things. And I've tried to signpost them as well as I can.
Well, hopefully the message is here as well. I think it's really good.
Yeah, well, as I said, I know I went off on a bit of a tangent on certain things, but as you know, I mean, the most important thing, especially for young kids, boys, girls coming through, I think, is to have some sport in your life.
Yeah.
I know not everyone's talented sports person, even if they're going to go off but have something else in your life. Yeah, I just feel.
Well, you've got friends for life from your football. I've got friends for life from my rugby. And I'm so glad my dad took me to Portsmouth Rugby Club when I was 9 years old. It's the best thing he ever did for me in that respect, because rugby's been a huge part of my life. Like football's been a huge part of your life. And like I said, you're now the fabric of a city. You've got the freedom of Pompey that you got in May this year.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
That very, very proud of that. Yeah. Very proud of that.
Where does that compare to your MBE back in 2000?
As I said, I'd put it up and maybe a touch above.
You'd put that above MBE?
I do, yeah. The MBE, no, great honour, don't get me wrong, but I weren't a nice person then. and getting the freedom. I know it was given because of my health issues and blah, 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 but it's a great honour.
Yeah.
Be,
It's not bestowed on anyone.
yeah. The MBA, I just, yeah, just who I was at that time and never felt I really deserved it. If I'm being perfectly honest, because of my self-worth and all those things in and around it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sound really, really big. I felt I deserved that freedom to say, and that sounds really, comes across not how I mean it.
I know where you're coming from. There is a deserving bit because we didn't really go too much into depth about it, but your loyalty, your perseverance, you staying with the club for that whole time and investing the best years of your life, you invested into that football club. That you gave your years to that. Yes, you got something back from it, but you could have easily gone off elsewhere. You could have easily had a pissed off with the manager or a decision, and like you said, floated a transfer request, and you would have been snapped up by another club, but you stayed true. And like you said, the other bit was with a bit of advice you got from your Oppo back in the day, saying give back to the fans and be part of that. But if you're offered something, do it, and that's what you've done too. So,
Yeah.
and the alcoholism thing is not a result of you being a bad person. It's hearing you say that. I don't know, we're all very self-critical of ourselves, or mostly if you're self-aware, you're generally self-critical. You're in an environment where that is the culture. So you've been part of that. So you can't beat yourself up for that either. And here you are now. You've got a great life. You're married to a woman that loves you dearly, and you love her dearly, and you've got this different strength about you now. You do deserve that, and I think it's wonderful that
I feel bad about saying it like that, but I know in what way I meant that. Yeah. It's not like I should have a.
No, it doesn't come across like that at all.
When I was offered it, and I thought, yeah, great, everything's been done, and it's a nice bit of recognition.
Yeah.
It's probably the best way I should have put it, rather than I deserved it. It does sound very pretentious.
It didn't violate it.
But no, great, no, fantastic honour. And like you said, I mean, I have spoken to other people. I said, I do think it's a greater honour than the MBE. I appreciate getting probably more than I did the MBE. There had so much other crap going on in and around me. I didn't get the real chance to enjoy it when it come, if that's the right way of putting it.
And appreciate it, because, as you said, there's so much other noise coming because you're at the end of your professional career. This is the beginning of the 2000s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But would you say you've come a long way since then, the last 25 years? That's nearly 25 years.
Yeah.
It's mad to think that. Well, look, it's been an absolute privilege having you here, Alan, and getting to know you better. I know we've kind of missed each other on the phone a lot. Yeah. I fully intended to have lots of time with you before, but it's been quite, I hate to say it, organic, but getting to know you, kind of sat in my garden, in my shitty garden, hearing the dogs next door, and my dog coming and jumping all over you. Have you got any final statement you want to make, or anything to any blokes watching this in terms of mental health, anything?
I know, obviously, because of it being prostate cancer and stuff like that, and it's normally looked towards men, but men, women, on the cancer side of things, if there's anything you think isn't normal, any lump, bump, bleeding, something, I think deep down sometimes. Yeah. And I know it isn't always easy to get in to see your doctor or whatever, but please always get it checked. The sooner you can do it, the better. Proof of that, the sooner you can do it, especially with prostate cancer, if you can catch it while it's within the prostate, you won't die of it, you'll die with it. As long as you catch everything early enough, there's always a good chance it can be resolved. Yeah, don't be afraid of it. And if you are in turmoil, reach out. And I didn't do that, not for a long time at time.
And that also goes, if the larger group, if you see someone in your group, in your friendship group, that they've either gone quiet, or you see they're consistently on the booze and kind of maybe even drowning their inner voices, you need to go and speak to them and try and help them. Yeah. Well, it's been, like I said, it's a huge privilege to have you here, Mr. Alan Knight, MBE, the legend. Thank you very much for coming, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. I will put Alan's handles on here, and we'll put links to the various channels that can help all of us, really, especially from a mental health issue and a physical health issue. And I really appreciate you being really candid and sharing some deep stuff there. I don't know if you've shared all that stuff before, but really appreciate that. And I think that's gold.
No, thank you. I know you got a lot of editing to do.
You'll be
Thank
fine.
you very much.
Thank you. Cheers, Alan. Thank you.